I offer a message of hope for your soul.
When debt slavery grows through usury, emancipation comes through jubilee. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to captives, recovery of sight to the blind. To set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of our Lord's favor. This is our Jubilee.
Oh, I have no money. Please don't take my house. Here, take my arm. Well, we'll get your arm and your house.
Usury is theft.
But it's my profit.
You have turned my father's temple into a den of thieves.
Get the police here to arrest this criminal.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Jubilee. Debt forgiveness is the law.
Jubilee.
Jew Debt Revolt. I am here as a representative of Yah of Hosts to promote a debt forgiveness as it's commanded by Yah in the Old Testament, and as righteous Jew Nehemiah performed in Nehemiah 5, a righteous Jew who obeyed the law when Jews were charging other Jews usury. And that is that's a repeated event, that this thing keeps happening. And what happens is parents get very upset because they're working all the time, and all of the things that people do with the yellow vest movement or the Occupy Wall Street movement or the Tea Party movement is we keep having this repeated instance of tyranny and oppression, and the reggae artists call it the downpression. And that's where we're at. We are at a repeated event in history. My degree is in history, and my degree was completely worthless because they don't teach us, sadly, about how the money lenders rule, how they, through monopoly of money, it's like we have this weird cognitive dissonance. On one hand, we'll know and we'll say, you know, he who has the gold makes the rules, or cash is king. They'll say, like, you know, if you want to, if you got a gun, you can rob a bank, but if you have a bank, you can rob the world. And that's all that's happened. And our Creator, the King of the Bible, the only God which has whipped the moneylenders. Let me repeat that. The only God, the only one that was wise enough to go to the head of the snake. And it describes in Deuteronomy 28:43, these are prophecies that we're living out, that we're in a story. And the Bible is a story, and the focus of it is not about the props. It's not about the material world. It's about the transformation of the characters. So now is a time for those who are filled with the Holy Spirit, who are disgusted by the way events are occurring on earth, that our nations have been usurped, that usury is run rampant, the money lenders are ruling, we do not have representation, our voting is just the illusion of faith. Yah knew it would happen, he described it in the Bible, and he has the solutions to overcome it. Namely, a Jew debt revolt, as it's here in Nehemiah 5, and there's nothing more powerful than the word of God. We all know that. So let's get in here. You know, we have to believe in this, because if you don't think David beat Goliath, there's no point in doing any of this. You might as well just give up, because the bad guys, the money lenders, have the money, which controls all the guns, all the gold, all of the Bitcoin, all the Federal Reserve notes. They've got control of all the commodities. They've got control of all of the things, the physical, right? And just like Yah set it up. But if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, that history repeats and history is prophecy, you can see the time in the timeline that we are at right now. And when you know that the power of the Ark of the Covenant is behind Yah's word, that this power to overcome is right in front of us. So I'm going to play a video rather and with some music as opposed to me just jabbing. I tend to talk way too much. So here's a little bit of Jesus' good news, the gospel, Yeshua, Yah who saves. So I got to share my screen here. I'm glad you're all calling it. This little image here says, Daddy, what did you do in the Great War? So the guy's putting on the yellow vest right now. I respect you. I respect you. I respect you for getting in the streets and being active. I was active with the Tea Party movement, the Glenn Beck 9/12 movement, the Occupy Wall Street movement. I went to protest through all of that, the Ron Paul revolution. And I found all of those revolutions were wanting compared to the king of history, the king of miracles, the king of David versus Goliath, that victory. And if you're going to put your body on the line, do you want to have insurance or you want to have Yah's assurance, meaning the promises to Abraham, which is us, humanity, everyone who's a debt slave right now, that's subject to the curses of the moneylenders from Deuteronomy 28:43. So if you're in pain, this video's for you.
I offer a message of hope for your soul.
When debt slavery grows through usury, emancipation comes through jubilee. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to captives, recovery of sight to the blind. To set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of our Lord's favor. This is our jubilee.
So I'm doing some new tech here, and I'm playing a video, and I don't know if you guys got the audio. And I love that song, and I was singing along to it, and I'm terrible. And so anyway, it's basically Jesus proclaiming Jubilee, the good news. And it goes, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to captives, recovery of sight to the blind. It's like heavy guitar music. And I paid a guy to do it. And I told him, make it like a Queen rock anthem, like swagger, so that Israel has swagger to realize that our God is capable of overcoming all of these grasshoppers, all of these problems, all of our adversaries are grasshoppers in Yah's eyes. And when we look at the world with, with Yah's eyes, with anointed eyes, we see how this is nothing. Bob Marley goes, come we go chant down Babylon one more time. History repeats. So the same captivity repeats, well, the same release from captivity occurs. So that is where we are at right now. So that video is called Luke 4:19, Jesus declares Jubilee debt forgiveness. Please look that up. It's a song that obviously the word of Yah has had the scripture, but I paid a guy to sing it, make a song out of it. And I love the song. Like, the song is really good. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to share was another meme about our future. Okay. All right, so that's there. I got to share my screen. So I want to just show how I honor what you guys are doing insofar as working with the vest movement, the yellow vest movement, and be in solidarity of your sacrifice of your time and your energy and all that it takes to be part of a movement. And there's some that, I mean, there's people dying at these events. And there's a significant portion of the population that has never and will never march. Like they're just, they don't care, or they think it's ineffective. And I say marching is effective. However, it has to be done in the correct way. And I'm going to get that, the whole purpose, what I wish to do, what Yah wishes to do through me, right? Using me as a tool to put his words on these lips is say, you can beat them, and this is how you got to do it, and I promise you're going to win. Promise. Guarantee. It's not even close. And it's all done through monetary reform. It's all done through economic reform and by us taking responsibility, not to protest and complain, but rather, and not demand our rights and be entitled by like free human Freemasons. Freemasons came in and say, no, obey the government, surrender to the devil. And what Yah says, no, you're supposed to rule. You're supposed to reign. I made you in my image, not to surrender to evil. Yah didn't surrender to evil when he whipped the moneylenders, right? So that, okay, I want to share this. So our children's future is very, very important. Let me see if I can, yeah, okay, that's way bigger. And I need to get rid of that banner for a moment. Okay, I could just read it. Okay, so our children's future. I have two sons, aged 3 and 7 months, and they, we have to think, like I can't, they have been such a blessing. They have been such a miracle. Their birth was a miracle because I had a vasectomy for 15 years. Like I'm the worst representative for Yah possible because of all of the evil which I perpetrated in my life as a psychopath, idolatrous, womanizing, wicked, evil, jingoist, nationalist. If I was so deceived, I would have picked the stormtroopers, right? It's weird. Like as a kid, you watch Star Wars and you think that you want to be like a Han Solo or a Luke Skywalker, but somehow through idolatry, we get tricked into being stormtroopers or cheerleaders for the stormtroopers. So that's how this works. Yah is so wise, and he has put such a strong delusion and curse on humanity. If you don't have spiritual anointed eyes, you will waste your time with a lot of color revolutions. And a color revolution is a revolution which is financed by the bankers themselves, like communism. So the bankers have usury, and they basically monopolize everything, and they usurp the governments. And everybody's looking, oh, we can't have money ruling like that. So the bankers themselves promote communism. And then when those two go wrong, then they promote fascism. The bottom line, all of these various choices of humanism ends up putting humanity into the ditch because we're not using Yah's solution for revolution, okay? And this is very important because if you choose wrong, so you don't want to be apathetic. So here's the point of the meme. Our future right now is being scripted by these satanic bankers, and they're offering us a future of the Terminator, of World War Z, or zombie apocalypse, or the Matrix, a synthetic reality, which we already have, or Bird Box, where we just commit suicide and it's just horrible. Or option B, we could have hopium, the rapture for cowardly Christians, Fulfordism, that's basically where you always have there's these white Chinese that are these benevolent Chinese, like just some solo. There's these other guys that are going to come doing it. They're working on the inside. They're like QAnon. They've got these guys on the inside, and they're doing it, and we don't have to do anything. We can keep watching football. I really want to protest, and I want to get but it's football season. Well, we all have to realize that bread and circuses have been put before us in order to keep us placated and domesticated. And if you really keep climbing the tree of all these revolutions, you keep trying. And I put them all on. I tried them all because I didn't want to. I grew up on the Dallas Cowboys growing up, in Roger Staubach and the Navy and the Marine Corps and all of that idolatry growing up. And it's easy to get deceived with the Pentagon and the Washington Monument obelisk. This idolatry has put us into a ditch, and we're taking our children with us because we refuse to do what Gideon did. The lesson that Gideon did is he had to tear down the altars of his father, because there's a tribal seeds. It's the lies of the fathers are taught to the sons. So if the parents think that cannabis of Exodus is evil, the kids will think it's evil. If the kids want to rebel, and sadly what we're doing is, if we don't change right now, we are going to keep generating and perpetuating an intergenerational enslavement of our children. Just by me going to work as a pool installer, I enslave my children because I leave. And I don't stay home, right? And the days that I sing home, I sing a song with them. I go, Daddy, stay home today. Whoop, I got my guitar right here. Let's go outside and play. Daddy, stay home today. Let's go outside and play. It's got 2 chords. I'm just learning. I only have 3 strings and 2 chords. I'm all tangled up in my my shoulder strap here, and Daddy, stay home today. Daddy, stay home today. Right? So I want to keep this moving. I tend to get very distracted. Music is the key. Music is extremely important because that's what unites everybody. That gets us into one accord, and Revelation commands that they will be singing a song of Moses and a song of the Lamb. So the overcomers, music unites us, Jubilee. Like, once you come to this realization, all we got to do is cancel the debt and then hire the enforcers. And the enforcers become, if they qualify, they can potentially become part of the government. But you have to realize only Yah creates law. So a lot of this stuff is a very big hurdle for most people. So Yah through his strong delusion, he offers up he offers up color revolutions. So that's communism and fascism, or the Tea Party movement, or the Arab Spring, or Occupy, or the Yellow Vests. And what happens is you expend all of your, or the civil rights movement or whatever, right? You expend all of your energy on voting and protesting and making a change, and you get what you think you want, and then you find out that these guys have given you the Patriot Act. They've always got tricks up their sleeve, because it's literally, you have to look at this. Yah is the creator of our captivity. Yah is the creator of evil, and he's trying to marry his bride being us. And we are a rebellious bride so long as we're polytheists. And a polytheist is someone that obeys the Constitution and the Bible. You can't do both, because the Constitution is humanism and the Bible is not. It's not. In fact, Adam and Eve were thrown out of the garden for voting and being humanists, right? So we get into a ditch if we go expend our energy into these false solutions. It's part of the strong delusion. All right, so D, if what our child's future, option D, continued debt slavery, tyranny, genocide, perpetual war, madness, gender dysphoria, cultural Marxism, and arrested development. Is that we're just going to let it go? Because it's only going to get worse, because it only has gotten worse. There's nothing that we're really doing to stop the moneylenders. Trump isn't abolishing debt and usury. He's increasing debt and usury, right? So E, and mind you, I'm not a capitalist or a leftist. I'm a Yahist. I'm trying to be a righteousite, to obey Yah's commands, to be a humble bride. Says, I am lost without Yah. You are my salvation. You are my lawgiver. You are my king. You are my salvation. This is the only way we get out of this captivity, is like the Exodus. You paint your door red with the Passover lamb, Messiah, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. You cancel the debt. You do what he did. He went into the synagogues over and over again. Yah has, the Bible is the owner's manual to earth that tells you on the tactics and strategies to overcome the money lenders. All right, so here we go. E, option E, for your children, right? Which of these options? You want Terminator or just hopium? You want color revolutions, debt slavery, addiction, and wasting your time? Or do you want a Jubilee land restitution? People go, okay, what is Jubilee land restitution? That's actually right in Nehemiah 5. Land restitution, meaning land that is stolen through usury, which is all of it, the entire earth, all of it. Who created it? Whose is it? Read the parable of the wicked tenant. The parable of the wicked tenant is there's an owner that created it. He owns it. He makes the rules. And then there's there's wicked tenants, basically the governments of the earth, because they think they own it, and they've turned around and they're renting it to us. Rent seeking and usury and engineered scarcity and the commoditization of every water, air, everything, and then poisoning everything. The wicked tenant. Like, imagine you had the tenant. There's probably a reality show called, Bad Tenants, right? About you have renters and you have the tenants that just destroy. I used to be that. I used to be the worst tenant you can imagine. When I was in college, we would deliberately beat through the drywall on drunken nights. It's a bunch of frat guys drinking all the time. Like, that was the Animal House lifestyle. Okay, I have a comment here. I like that. Daniel Wetson says, Yah is already setting up a safe zone so that we will have a safe place to go. And so it actually says the inheritance is the land of our fathers, and through restitution, that's why this land, you actually bring up an important topic, land restitution. I'm a European. That's my nationality. I'm from Europe. The Bible is a allegory. It's a parable. It says, Jesus even says, if he didn't speak, he was always speaking in parables. The reason why he speaks in parables is so that it's a lesson. Yah came to teach and proclaim and to heal. And the means by which that you heal and offer shalom is you heal all of these divisions. And the reason why there's so much division is that there's been enforced diversity, right? Through through war, through slavery, the evil black African slave trade, just disgustingly criminal and horrible slave trade. They have not been given and made whole. And because they have not been made whole, like the Hawaiian people, the First Nation Hawaiian people. For that matter, the Chinese have not been made, you know, going all the way back to the Boxer Wars, where England was going in and say, hey, you gotta open up your free market. You guys need diversity. Hey, China, you need some civilization. So anyway, through restitution, everything is put back into place because you've had the destroyer. He comes to seek to the thief, the adversary. Yah comes to create and make everything harmonious. He wants us to live in the garden, tribally, First Nation, where our whole families are together. So you wake up in the morning and it's Monday and you don't go to work in a job for money, right? You go to work in the passion of your life, which is what I'm doing right now. Right now. I was born to do this thing right now. I found no way to make a living do that, so I build pools. But fortunately, it's the off season, and I think it's just a matter of time. In fact, it's part of the revolution will be through Exodus, through tribal Exodus government. These are part of Yah's promises that we will be able to live doing this. That those of you who understand what I'm talking about right now, that are down with the 144,000 plan, which is in the book of Revelation, there's a generation of children who don't know that they have to go every day and make as much mammon, Federal Reserve note, one world currency with the star on it. Has the 666. We've been under the mark for thousands of years. That's why the blind, you know, in the New Testament, why the blind man's parents would not witness. So basically, you have earth, Yah's kingdom, right? The promised land. You also have an adversary who's going to make a counterfeit of that. And then rather than giving you freedom to be with your family, he gives you freedom to live in your carnality, the freedom to indulge your passions, the freedom to watch porn all day, the freedom to have men to have sex with other men, the freedom for men to marry men, all of the, you know, 7 deadly sins of greed. And he allows all of those things to enslave people and societies who rebel, because that's Yah's bride. Yah is basically testing his bride. He wants a bride that obeys and loves him so much that they can't imagine going to work and supporting and getting on the hamster wheel as a cog in the part of Babylon's machine to destroy Yah's creation. Daniel Wetson says, everything we do in life is a parable of what is happening in our spiritual life. Everything we do is an allegory, and everything we do is literal. Daniel Wetson, are you able to, are you willing to come on the stream? I would love to. I'm testing out new software I just got, and I need to see if, oh, I can share his comments. Oh, like, so this is cool. Okay, he's got a picture of him. What's going on, Daniel? The truth of the matter is that Trump is going to declare a jubilee so that men might be deceived, even if it were possible, of the very elect. The major issue will be, which calendar did he declare the jubilee on? When we are ready, when we already know that jubilees happen more than once and have been blocked out by national emergencies. So be prepared when he declares jubilee to flow into the wilderness. I think that has wisdom to it. I think that has wisdom to it because it actually talks about that. So there's many prophets. So there's a whole lot of people who are deceived by Trumpism, which is humanism. So what Babylon does is gives you a little bit of the Bible and a little bit of humanism. That's what Baal worship is. Baal worship is just humanism. It's man creating law. And you've got Pharaoh, which will, you know how Pharaoh said, okay, you know, the Israelites can go, and then he changed his mind. So it's the elite know that once they're cornered, they can just start giving you a little bit of the truth. And actually, that's why Nehemiah 5 is such a good witness for what we are to do. And it's actually the details of what the yellow vests should be doing, because they set up a march. They had a protest. Okay, so I want to use some word of Yah here, so it's not me. So real quick, just to finish this meme, we want land restitution, debt cancellation, self-actualization, where we reach our highest potential, because we're not working for money anymore. We're working for our communities and our families. We're playing music. We're making our lives a work of art. It's not capitalism, meaning moneyism, where money rules. It's spiritualism, where our highest and greatest purpose, which is to fear Yah and keep his commandments. And part of fearing Yah and keeping his commandments is that the men raise up the children, the adolescent boys. Women cannot raise men. In fact, the men right now aren't raising men, right? So the point is we have the School of the Prophets here in Tampa, and the purpose of this broadcast, the ongoing witness of revelation, is to teach Yah, edify the church, teach Yah's wisdom to humanity, and come with the good news. The Spirit of the Lord's upon me. He has anointed me to preach the good news. This is the good news. Jubilee, land restitution, debt cancellation, self-actualization, tribal exodus government, where you become a member of the government. Right, a judge of 10, a judge of 50. They're leaders that are leading men, a rite of passage to take responsibility and make sure that your communities are not dominated by usurers. In order to do that, you're going to need a usury-free, barter-based, labor-based money system, a labor-based economic system. And I've created a whole, allow that to be explained. You know, I've made videos and websites to teach all this stuff. So heaven on earth, that's what we're talking about. This is a very, very big vision, starting off tiny. You know, I got 3 viewers right now. Thank all of you that are, and for more comments. I was curious, if any of you guys were listening, could you, when I was playing the video, could you hear the audio on that video? I don't know where I type into the thread. I don't know how to do that. All right, so I'm going to get into Nehemiah 5. I think I might have a meme for it even. That way you guys can read it. So I'm not making anything up. Nehemiah, the righteous Jew who led a successful Jewish debt revolt. Okay. Yes, I found it. Okay, let me screen share. Again, I apologize. This is a low budget operation. And that's not the right one. I got to get rid of that one. Share the screen. Application window. Here we go. Here we go. All right, so here's the scripture from Nehemiah 5. I'll just read the first part. So we start Nehemiah 5. And there was a great outcry of the people and of their wives against their brethren Jews. By the way, there's a problem here. Problem solution, right? The Bible has problem solution all through it. If you rebel, you're going to have tribulation. You're going to have captivity. You're going to have the curse. It's going to go wrong, all right? If you obey, that's his bride, right? He's going to protect you from everything. Give you, set you up on high. And there was a great outcry of the people and of their wives against their brethren, the Jews. So this was it was the men, the people, and their wives against their brothers, the Jews. Jew versus Jew. For For there were those that said, we, our sons and daughters are many, therefore we take up corn for them, that we may eat and live. So we're working for you guys. But it's at the through this monopolization of money. Some there also said that we have mortgaged our fields and our vineyards and our houses that we might get grain. We have borrowed money for the king's tax. We are forcing our sons and daughters to be debt slaves. I consulted with myself and I contended with the nobles and the rulers. And I said to them, you are exacting usury, right? So Nehemiah, he thought to himself, he actually admits that Nehemiah himself, I was doing the same thing. He had forgotten the law himself. So the solution was, please give back to them this very day their fields, their vineyards, their olive groves, and their houses. Then they said, we will give it, meaning the elders and the nobles. Then they said, we will give it back and will require nothing from them. We will do exactly as you say. So they're giving the land back. They also gave the principal and the interest back. I don't have all of the verses there. I actually made a podcast. Please check it out. It's called the Usury-Free Jubilee Monetary Reform Podcast. It's on Spreaker, Podomatic, Stitcher, and iTunes. The last I checked, which was probably like 2 years ago. So I hope that's still up. Quick little commercial. So, hey, I got kids. All right. So the podcast is totally free, by the way. And I made that probably 4 years ago. And at the time, I was a constitutionalist. I'm no longer a constitutionalist. I don't believe in voting. The Bible has no voting. So when it talks about tribal exodus government, the leader of the tribe is known by everybody. Everybody can naturally see this is the guy that knows what to do, because Yah is like, imagine in your community, you had a guy named Noah. And you had this other dude named Jonah, right? If you read the Bible, you know how to identify these things. You know how there's this one guy who, he's not into the Broadway. He's not into the thing that all these other people are doing. He has a direct relationship with Yahweh. Yahweh puts his words on Noah's lips because Noah obeys. Noah poured out himself. He was repentant and humble, and he realized, as we all should, that what we do just puts us into a ditch, right? So if you're adulterous, it ends up just giving you heartache and pain and right? So it's just bad, right? So we can rebel from gravity, but we can't rebel from the consequences of gravity, or refusal, right? So, and pretend that it doesn't exist, or buoyancy, some people call it. So the point is that these rules exist, whether we believe it or not. The rule for debt cancellation every 7 years. That is an absolute essential. All right. So the next spot I wanted to go to was my website, JewDebtRevolt.com. Okay, bear with me. I should probably full screen that if it's possible. I'm sure there's a way to do that. All right, I'm not going to sweat it. All right, so let me share the screen. Okay, window app. So it's very much about, the website is very much about the problem and the solution. And that is about, like the Bible itself. That's a video about, our dystopian reality. So if you go to the homepage, it just shows what a mess reality is. Fluoride, and we grow up as children wanting to be heroes, and then we just see our politicians lying. It's just everything's a mess, and the heroes can't save the heroes that we're given, and our lives are becoming destructive, and the society is more violent. Our Creator has a solution, but it involves the biggest challenge is having the courage to even listen to it. To have the courage to even listen to it. The courage to think that there might even be something better than the Constitution. The possibility, the possibility that you were wrong when you took an oath to the U.S. Constitution. That maybe that oath to the Constitution is the reason why one vet per hour is killing themselves. Maybe those same people that are murdering men and veterans through big pharma medicines, poisoning our food, water, air, and minds. Right? So there's a solution. So the solution first is courage. First step. So I want to show you just do like a little tour around. I gotta make some space so I can read it myself. So the tabs on the top are home, hero's journey, depression's downpression story, the sword, which is the word of Yah, a musical school, the blog I haven't done much with, and a contact that has my address to the School of the Prophets. And the best way to reach me is through Facebook. That's where I do most of my activisms. My name's Wayne Walton. So I just start off. So the Hebrew Bible, or the Old Testament, has economic laws which will rapidly, peacefully, and thoroughly end our captivity to Babylonian bankers. We are suffering due to a simple cause and effect relationship. One can ignore the laws of gravity, but one cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring the laws of gravity. Yah rules and has created economic laws. However, man foolishly despises Yah's law out of vanity and pride. When humanity ignores Yah's economic laws, we fall into debt slave captivity. The Bible refers to debt slaves as bond servants. Look it up in Exodus. Nearly every single problem that afflicts humanity is a consequence of rebellion to Yah's law. Hate, division, poverty, endless war, addiction, big pharma, big oil, big agri, pollution, mass shootings, and political corruption are all symptoms. Symptoms. Barack Obama is a symptom. The Clinton crime family and the Bush crime family and the Trump crime family, they are all symptoms. They are bank puppets. Our status as bondservants condemn us to Babylonian or Egyptian captivity. Now it's time for an uprising. So it's the song by Muse, okay, comes up here. Righteous Jew Nehemiah led a successful debt and usury abolition revolt. Read Nehemiah 5 to see how his people were enslaved by money lenders as we are today. The Tea Party, Occupy Wall Street, and Yellow Vest movements are motivated by common people against economic oppression. I'm a pool guy. I'm down for the uplift of humanity. It requires for us to be heroes in order to defend our children. We can't teach our children to be free, which requires them willing to be heroes to their community, to be role models in their community, for them to be intercessors in their community, to be willing to be martyred like the apostles in their community. Taxes, usury, money lender usurpation are nothing new. History repeats, and we need biblical debt cancellation once again. First, we must stop being divided and conquered by moneylenders. Mammon has unlimited funds to finance both sides of conflicts. Satanic agent provocateurs engineer conflict. Order out of chaos. Think of spy versus spy. Is the standard operating procedure. The Palestinian conflict appears as if it's an impossible problem to solve. However, Once the money power is defeated, Jerusalem will be restored as the city of peace. Star Trek Day of the Dove episode is an allegory which shows how a satanic, divisive, hidden power engineers conflict, how its power grows when we hate, how our negative energy is harnessed against us to enslave us in perpetual war. Think of, Jesus says, love your enemies, bless those that curse you. He does that not for you to just be a dupe, but so that you don't give your energy to a psychopath. Psychopaths and energy vampires want you to engage in their argument so that they can harness your negative energy, your anger and righteous judgment, and get you off track. So it's a spiritual game. You have to fast and work on it. Okay, so that's the home page. Hero's journey. Okay, there's a 7-branched menorah, which is the symbol of the 7-branched cannabis leaf. Don't you know that Prophet Bob Marley utilized to receive the Holy Spirit, so that he had direct revelation, so that he knew about Exodus before the internet. How did he know? Yah told him, and the Bible. So hero's journey, you have to be willing to go on a journey from your where you've been, out of your comfort zone. And that's what's awesome about, thank you, Yellow Vist guys. I want to validate you for having the courage, having the sacrifice. You're sacrificing sports, you're sacrificing Netflix, sacrificing porn, you're sacrificing your time with your family or whatever, because you know that it's essential that we stand up right now, because it's Sodom and Gomorrah. It's Sodom and Gomorrah right now, right? It can't. Sodom and Gomorrah was so wicked that when Yah sent angels, the Sodomites, like in the police and the military, tried to sodomize them. Think of if the apostles, a modern day apostle went to jail, chance they might get sodomized, right? It's been normalized that this is just, it's just in the movies. It's on Netflix. They do it all the time. Going to jail, well, watch out, right? They've been joking about it and normalizing it for so long that it's not even, it's on regular TV. You know what I mean? It's in the mall, right? The whole pedophilia, sodomy agenda is normalized. It's promoted in the schools where the kids are forced to become polytheistic. We are passing our children through the fire of Moloch, right? That's a command. We are doing that right now. Even if you homeschool, you're doing that because the children are being turned over to serve Pharaoh. Okay, so that's why just hearing this stuff, most Christians, if they hear this, their head will explode. Okay, so you need some courage. And a good way to view this, the way to really have courage is look at it like this. We are the authors, along with Yah, of our future. And we can choose to be David's. We can choose to be Moses. We can choose to be like Apostle Paul or righteous Stephen when he was stoned, that he condemned the Jews for persecuting the Jews, the same way that Nehemiah did, the same way that Moses did, because it was they rejected Moses initially, the Israelites did, because Moses was trying to keep the Israelites had been in captivity for so long that they became Egyptian. Just like we've been in captivity for so long that we think that we are Americans or African Americans or Hawaiian Americans. No, you're Hawaiians. Your First Nation tribal identity is Hawaiian. And Just like that's a beautiful tradition that should be preserved. And Yah created this magnificent reality, magnificent, that you can go to see right now in nature, in Hawaii, away from where the people are. Get into the ocean and see, like, I went surfing in Hawaii and they had humpback whales and the big turtles, like the giant sea turtles that you could just look at in the water like you're in an aquarium. That you, like in Florida, you have that with dolphin. At our place here at the School of the Prophets, we have a minnow encounter for real, where the minnows will come nibble on your toes. Right? We've had it with visitors, and I have video of my wife's toes being nibbled on by like 6, 7, 8. And it's pretty automatic. It's pretty cool. So the point is, Hawaii had that. They don't, maybe they have minnows too, but there's things that's magnificent about the Hawaiian Islands that's uniquely magnificent to all the world. I've also had the blessing, great massive blessing by Yah. Massive blessing by Yah. And that blessing Yah wants to give to all of his obedient bride. The blessing of protection, the blessing of hope, the blessing of his grace, the blessing of his forgiveness, the blessing of his ability to overcome all addiction, to overcome all slavery, to overcome all hardship, to solve all of humanity's problems, individually and collectively. Fast. Exodus takes less than a year. Mentally, Babylon could be knocked down as soon as we purge our temple. Take out the leaven, all of the leaven from the temple, all the sin, all of the rebellion, humanism in all of its forms. Remove humanism in all of its form. Remove all of the vestiges of cultural Marxism in the form of women's liberation and forced diversity and manifest destiny, right? Free markets, free to where these money lenders have enslaved everyone in debt, where they've commoditized human beings. So to beat this, we have to realize our role, that it's as wrong is wrong. We are in the tribulation now. We're under the mark right now. So our challenge is to live without these mark of the beast notes. And we want to represent the people of the Sabbath, the 777, the 7, and the 7 times 7, which is the Jubilee land restitution. So through the website is to get each of us on our hero's journey, where we go from, think of the prodigal son. He was rebelling from Yah. He was in a pit of mud and pig feces, just as low as you can go. Everything's wrong. You can't make money. You're homeless. You have no possessions. Everything's as wrong can be. You're losing your wife. You've lost your hope. You're considering suicide. Or you have everything materially, but you don't have Yah. You don't have hope. You have all the material things, but you're suicidal. Like in our community recently in St. Pete at the VA, there was a Marine colonel that suicided himself as a public act, sort of like the Buddhists do self-immolation. But he did it, and he took out his military records and his medical records, one of the two, and he went on top of it and he shot himself in the parking lot, as best I know, to make a point of how this Pentagon system, if you're serving the Pentagon, you might have a bad time. I apologize. All you can do is laugh. You just got to move on. Okay, so we're living a reality like Neo, and the there's a literary template of a hero's journey, and it's essential for you to know because you can author that hero's journey as Jordan Peterson. I should be selling Jordan Peterson self-authoring programs because he has a good product. I intend to get it. I just have not done, but because I've done a lot of work already before I found out like that, he created a smart product. I wish I had created it because I kind of already did that, but I was focused on the money system and the self-transformation. It just kind of happens. Once you have your why, your goal. My goal is that my children are not raised as slaves. That's my goal. That's my goal. And my duty is to fear Yah and keep his commandments. And what Yah promises is that if I fear Yah and keep his commandments, he's going to tell me what to do in the same way that he told Noah what to do, the same way he told Moses what to do, directly, details. So literally, Yah has told me how to create an ark, an economic ark for the people to exodus this system and issue their own money. It's not my money system because the people themselves issue the money just like they can right now, independent of me, issue gift certificates or coupons or daily deals or frequent flyer miles, tickets. These are all just various forms of IOUs. Human beings can issue monetary instruments. I have a video called The Chicken Note. Check it out, The Chicken Note. So Yah has called me to do this duty. This is my mission. This is my anointed mission, is to teach this. This is the curriculum of the School of the Prophets. So the literary template of the hero's journey is that, you have the beginning of the movie. Think of Star Wars or The Matrix. And this character arc exists in all sorts of different movies. The Wizard of Oz, Moana, all of the Disney movies. So you have the beginning where everything's good, like in The Matrix. Like Neo is, he's got his regular job, like it's the way things are normal. But he's not Neo. He doesn't know anything about Neo yet. He's just Mr. Anderson working his desk job. But he goes on a hero's journey. So check this out. Like this hero's journey is part because you have to, and there's documentaries about the hero's journey. There's a bunch of teachings about Jordan Peterson. This is a book that I read to my son every night. There's no such thing as a dragon. Jordan Peterson, it's a book by Jack Kent. It's a children's book about the consequences of ignoring our dragons. The unchallenged serpent from the garden becomes the serpent dragon of Revelation. Serpents, vipers, snakes, the Nashek snakebite represent the moneylenders. Nashek is Hebrew for snakebite and usury. The dollar symbol is the brass serpent on a pole from Numbers 21. The people were getting bit. The Israelites were getting bit. So Moses put a serpent on a brass pole to warn them. This is how you get healed. You're getting bit by usury. Right? These are parables. The serpent dragon steals gold and treasure and virgins, steals the virginity. So you have a bunch of hoes, right? So think of what should be virtuous Israel. Who stole the garden, right? The virgins, meaning they only obeyed Yah, spiritual virgins. Jesus as a meadow hero by Jordan Peterson is on the Joe Rogan program. Our individual dragon versus our collective dragon. Steps: rescue, repent, rehab, release, individual self-actualization, revival, collective challenge. To our common oppressors, peak experiences. Problem: we have all been subjugated to trauma-based mind control since birth. We must all commit to an honest self-evaluation. We must realign our values away from Babylon. then toward Yah. And there's a great website, I can't recommend it enough, called the Academy of Ideas. So it comes from a secular standpoint. So I try to bring you in from a secular standpoint. Eventually I'm going to take you to Yah to demonstrate that what I'm explaining is a rational reason to believe in Yah. Not just believe for the sake of believing, but here's why you should believe. Because he's going to keep your children from being slaves. Okay, challenge, self-actualization and peak experiences, self-image upgrade. Israel, we think of all of us, our own individual identity. What happens is that we pour out our identity into false idols. So our energy empowers. Our energy gives life to. We put our life force into the U.S. Constitution. We put our life force behind a promissory note. They call them adhesion contracts to get, driver's licenses and birth certificates and all those sorts of things. So the point is we effectively what the adversary has done is created a straw man. He's actually created a straw man of us. And we put our self-worth into that straw man, but that straw man has no power or spirit without us. And what Yah's calling us to do is put our identity and our faith and our future, the future of our children, an intergenerational commitment to our future through Exodus, from going polytheistic Romans and Egyptians or Babylonians in confusion to becoming monotheistic righteousites, where we obey Yah, the Creator. Are you truly committed, becoming an unstoppable force? Another video from the Academy of Ideas. The materialist fear of death creates their own prison, right? Yah teaches us to be more, Jordan Peterson actually teaches this as well, is that there's going to be suffering because we're in tribulation, and what Yah's calling us to do is to become tougher, not to make us more safe, but to make us tougher. And when we have courage to obey him, then Yah will protect his monotheistic bride. Okay, so I'm at the bottom of the website. It says about this site, Yah's economic laws implemented by tribal Exodus judges of tens, 50s, hundreds, and thousands will quickly, peacefully, and musically end Babylonian captivity. We producers can self-issue money, forgive all debt, and return First Nation status to all tribes and tongues. Yah's law for economic authentic justice includes restitution of all stolen land. For example, tribal Hawaiians have Hawaii returned to them. That's the good news of Jubilee. We intend to hire Babylon's enforcers to work Yah's kingdom. Watch our music video for this vision. It's called Officer of Peace. There's another video here called Chicken Note. So let me stay on Officer of Peace for a moment. Officer of Peace is a music video starring Sherry Honkala, who is, just to show you, there's people from Occupy at the time where I was active with We Are Change Colorado. Before that, I was active with We Are Change Tampa before we moved to Colorado for a period of time. And we have activists there that are generally like they're Austrian economics from the right. So we have representatives from the right and from the left. Occupy Denver. People were there, black and white and Christians and Muslims. And we had, the melting pot of representation, a very diverse group of people. And it wasn't that I went to try to do that. It's just that that's who we were marching with. We were marching. We weren't hating on any race. We love everybody. We want everybody to have their identity their tribal identity restored, where they have their language, their culture, their dress, you know, everything's been homogenized by Hawaii and Madison Avenue and Disney into this monoculture, a very destructive monoculture based upon arrested development. So Cynthia, these are good people. Cynthia McKinney is awesome too, but it's Sherry Honkala is in the video, and she's featured as the Jubilee Sheriff. I guess I could play the video. I don't know if you'll get the sound. Can one of you guys tell me if I'm getting sound? Can you hear the music video? If anybody can comment, that would be great. So I actually star as the banker in this. You got to check this out. I'm on stilts. So Sherry Honkala is featured as the sheriff, and there's a problem. She's seeing all the bank bailouts. This is taken apart in like 2011. It was right during the banker engineered dollar collapse in 2008 and 9 and onward. It was deliberately engineered by the bankers. It's how the usurers shear the sheep of their assets. It's built into the system. Usury is a mathematic fraud. You can't pay principal and interest when the principal is all that is issued. So Sherry Honkala actually ran as the Green Party vice presidential nominee that year, or the year prior to that, year or two prior. And she also ran for sheriff in Philadelphia, where she planned to block all foreclosures. Let me ask you something. Do you think that the bankers would finance a candidate that was going to block all foreclosures? How much funding do you think she got? How much television exposure do you think she got? How many debates do you think she was invited to? Right? So what I'm trying to express is the mark of the beast is a present reality of the moneylender's ability to monopolize the Overton window. The moneylenders are able to create the Overton window, and everything that's outside of that window is fringe or conspiracy and impossible. So that within the Babylonian system, anybody that's actually willing to do something that threatens the bankers, they're, imagine, Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump blocking all the foreclosures? He got bailed out, right? That's why he's beholden to the very same bankers. He went bankrupt and the bankers bailed him out because he had a notoriety. They could use him because he would sell out. So in this video, Sherry Honkala finds a homeless family, which is a friend of ours from Tampa, and her two children. Like, these are real people that we know that outside of protesting and all that. And there's a cop in there that's Anthony LaRocca, and he's a fraternity brother of mine from University of South Florida that I played Ultimate Frisbee with. So what I'm trying to say is I'm a real dude. You can trust me, and I'm willing to be stoned if I'm lying. If I lie to you and I say things are going to happen, if they don't happen, you can stone me. Because you, concurrently, you, meaning Israel, you are supposed to receive me. You're supposed to at least listen. You're supposed to at least entertain what I'm describing, that Jews are enslaving fellow Jews with usury. Because I'll tell you what, if you go and talk about that in Jerusalem today, I don't think they will hear too much about it. I don't know if you can go into the synagogues today. I'm willing to try as a witness of Revelation and share the good news of the gospel, because when Jesus shared the gospel, they wanted to throw him off a cliff, and he was a Jew. That's part and part of this civil war, which is ongoing to today. So the adversary to the ones that want to obey the Sabbaths are have put an Egyptian obelisk in their Supreme Court building. right? In the Rothschild state of Israel, it's secular. They don't have tribal exodus government. So anyway, the land restitution is not occurring for the common people. Can somebody please tell me if you hear the audio for the music video? So for the yellow vest people, why is this meaningful to you? This video is 4 minutes long, and it describes exactly what you need to do in order to overcome and implement your own Nehemiah 5 debt revolt. You issue your own money, and then you hire the police. This music video explains it. I'm the banker. I'm the bad guy. That's Rob, my wife's car, her old car. No audio. Okay. So I'll describe it. So there's the homeless, right? She's a good sheriff. Again, I was a constitutionalist at the time. I'm not anymore. But imagine that a judge of 10 or a judge of 100 or a judge of 1,000 could do this exact same thing. And then there will be a conflict, and it's building up the conflict, right? So she's been evicted. The sheriff's going to take her. Sherry Honkel is going to take her back to her house. They pull out the mortgage sign. I scripted all this, and Jason Bosch did the video, puts them back in the house. Yay, right? That's the Wandering Monks. I hired them to create this album. They're awesome. Their music is awesome. They have an anointing. They have great wisdom. That's me. The code enforcers. Remember, man cannot create law. I'm rejoicing. Uh-oh. So here come the prophets. So, at the time, I was way more humanist than I am. I know there's a lot of idolatry in there. I apologize for it, but at the time, that's where I was at. I came to all this as agnostic. But I recognize the wisdom in Yah's law. Right? So now there's a showdown. You got a reporter there. You got the mercenaries for the bankers beating down the officer of peace. They bust out the Ark of the Covenant. It's right here. Very same thing. Any interest is theft. The people know what to do. They know what to see. This is the Nehemiah 5. As all usury is fraud, Jubilee is justice. Jubilee means all of our debts are forgiven. Jubilee means that the bankers and the police get their houses for free. They get all their debts forgiven. They're just debt. The bankers and the police are debt slaves also. Do you see this as conflict resolution? This is called shaloming. You're making everyone whole. And when everyone's whole, the demons run away. They don't like it. Those same demons are exercised in that Star Trek video called the Day of the Dove. Everybody's happy. There's Jesus, right? There's Bruce Bauman, right? He's cool. There's Anthony LaRocca. There's MCAD and linguistry, right? Jesus and Muhammad are hugging, right? The police don't want to stick up for the bankers anymore. The Federal Reserve notes, the idol that we have energized, are no longer valuable. I'm no longer exalted. I'm off the stilts. I'm on the ground. Everybody's high-fiving. Look at that smile on everybody. Everybody's happy. Jubilee. Jubilee, people. Hallelujah. Is that the future you want for your children? I mean, is it? Hallelujah. We got a commercial. Let me. Okay. So a lot of people, okay, that's general. Like, what? Do you have any more detail on that, Wayne? Do you have any more explanation? More of this sounds like, just a lot of pie in the sky stuff. Well, here's the deal is that I was blessed to promote a local currency called Mountain Hours. And the currency that was in the video was called Mountain Hours and Mile High Hours. So part of the teaching that we've been blessed to do is to teach about about the chicken note. And that's how everybody, long ago, before there was money, that's what this video talks about, the chicken note. Video describes how common people issue money backed by their own labor and productivity. And that's equivalent to what it says in Deuteronomy 14:23 through 25, where we can pay our tithe with our labor and our produce, our flocks and our herds and our oil. So what I'm trying to establish is everything that I'm describing can be found in the Bible as a solution for a usury-free economic system. Because I'm not, a lot of times people want to pigeonhole it. So, well, he's just talking about living like the Indians, where we don't have cars and we don't have internet. And that's not it. Our technology will far exceed what we have right now. This is the good news, people. You're going from living in captivity, crossing over the Red Sea, crossing over the Jordan into the Promised Land, so that our children, through our intergenerational commitment, live in the Promised Land. That's what our plan is to accomplish. So we're into theory, right? So this is theory. It's a mustard theory. Christian's here. I got the yellow vest on. We're protesting. I want to show my son Christian here for a second. This is the why we're doing this. Christian, say hi. Do you see the camera right? Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And he's outside. It's a warm Florida summer day. Like Daddy doesn't have a work. Christian, can you do the song? Are you ready? Here we go. Daddy, stay home today.
Dad, I want to.
You don't want to sing? We did music class early. He likes climbing ladders. That's his favorite thing. And Mommy's here. So this is a general idea, but we actually implemented this monetary reform system, and monetary reform historian and documentarian Bill Still. You guys know Bill Still of The Money Masters and The Secrets of Oz and Jekyll Island. Like, he's the world's foremost monetary reformer. So I'm speaking to the yellow vest guys. I don't want you to waste your time marching. If you don't have a plan for monetary reform, you're going to have a conflict between debt slaves. You're going to have debt slave bankers fighting debt slaves, you yellow vesters. Hey, Summer. All right, well, I'm doing a video right now. I'll be done in a little bit. I'm good. No. I'm yellow vesting.
I see it.
Yes. Are you familiar with the yellow vest thing going on? Bonjour. Robin says bonjour. Go yellow. I'm trying to explain. You got to do monetary reform. Like my wife and I, we've done End the Fed protests. We did Oath Keepers protests. We did 9/11 Truth protests. Robin, my wife, is a veteran protest. I actually proposed to her at a protest with a plane. That's true. This is our life. I'm standing in the school of the prophets. Like, this is our mission. Yah has called us to do this. And Robin was a top recruiter for Mountain Hours, which is a usury-free local currency system, which Bill Still tested in Summit County, Colorado, which is where Breckenridge is, and Frisco. There's 4 ski resorts in that area: Breckenridge, Keystone, Copper, and Arapahoe Basin. No, I'm good. Actually, water would be great. I've been yapping nonstop. So monetary reformer Bill Still came. Yeah, that works. And he tested the currency. He went around. We went to a grocery store. We went to a auto repair place. We had his oil checked. He was driving there from Washington, D.C. area, Virginia. And he drove all the way there. He was just married. And like, this for us, we're like, this is, when we are Change, Colorado, down in Denver, there was maybe 20 to 30 activists there. And we were like, Jubilee, Jubilee, like yelling Jubilee. And we had another event with Sheriff Richard Mack and Gary Franchi and Luke Radowski, Joby Weeks, Jordan Page. Like, we've been in them, but we don't get any notice because you can't make any money off of this money. It's a monetary system where the people are the money, the people are the value. It's a labor-based currency like barter. How do you make money off parasitically? That's the whole point, is you don't want to have anybody speculating on the currency, because then it's not being used for its intended purpose, which is in order to just simply innovate and streamline and innovate barter. So Bill Still came and tested this currency at Mountain Hours, and he came and he spoke to We Are Change, Bruce Bauman and Law Johnson and Douglas. Man, I feel bad because I'm not remembering names, because these guys were real active at the time with the Occupy movement. They're libertarians, and they're herding all of the leftists, generally progressives, to the Federal Reserve, and they're telling them about the Federal Reserve. And because on TV, from watching the mainstream media, they learned about the Occupy Wall Street protests, but they didn't learn about the Federal Reserve as being the key, that the money power is the head of the snake, so to speak. So they were truthing them out, and there was lots of interaction, and they had a very benevolent, they'd let everybody on the megaphone, everybody had an opportunity to speak. That was cool about the Occupy Wall Street thing. But what was bad about it was the anarchist Black Cross guys, which are today the Antifa, and they were there to just disrupt. The Antifa guys are active on the left to disrupt discourse, even on the left. They're there to make it appear that all revolutions are violent. And I just want to emphasize that this revolution is debt cancellation. It's nonviolent, and it's there's no hate. It's love, a biblical love, meaning you obey love. If you love me, keep my commandments. So in the image here, the monetary reformer Bill Still tests our money, local currency. So he's going around spending the currency. So again, he spoke in Denver. He earned. I'm showing how you could spend the currency in Denver, and then an hour away in Breckenridge, Summit County. So he earned it for speaking. We issued currency, or the guys down in I should say the business owners down in Denver issued the currency called Mile High Hours. So they paid Bill Still 20 hours, which was equivalent to $200. He then took that currency of hours. An hour can be equivalent to $10, or an hour can be equivalent to $20, whatever you decide. And that's the thing. It's local. It's tribal. You implement it with people that you know and trust, that they create good products that don't have fluoride in it, for instance, or GMO. So it does the opposite of Babylon. Babylon creates globalism and usurpation. This creates Sodom, self-sufficiency. I should say, I apologize. It creates self-sufficiency. It creates a sovereign society where it's ruled by Yah. Yah is the sovereign. Bill still tests the currency. So he earned that currency. He then took it up to Breckenridge, and we traded out those hours, the Mile High hours, in exchange for mountain hours. So now he has $200 worth of mountain hours, and then we took him on a tour of a grocery store, a mechanic's shop, a florist. He had just gotten engaged or married, I forget which one. We got him an award. Tommy Usury-Free Kennedy, this activist who's recently died, gave him a Usury-Free Activism Award, and we put it in a plaque, and that was given, and that was paid for with hours. And what it does, it creates unlimited funding for projects that are necessary and increase our humanity. Think of the Chinese social credit system, not to impose man's law, to create a meritocracy for evil, but to create a meritocracy of those who obey Yah's laws. That there's plenty of money for the righteous and very little, you actually cut off the unrighteous. So we rented skis, or actually we rented snowshoes at a ski rental shop. He was sore, so we took him to a massage therapist. We went to like 2 or 3 restaurants. We bought dinner and lunch and dessert. There's video online of buying cannabis at various dispensaries. We have a video where we broke the petroleum control system, the petrodollar. Think of that monopoly. That's the strongest monopoly on earth right now, is the petrodollar. Because if you break that mark of the beast system and try to buy and sell outside of it, you get cut off. And you actually can get your head cut off, as Muammar and Saddam learned, and Kennedy, right? So if you go up against the bankers, you get offed. So this is the core of it. This is the money system, because it's so centralized, it's also the Achilles heel to the whole system. Think of changing the money system. Think of changing the money system like changing, like having a blood transfusion. We have this contaminated, cancerous blood, right? That's got all of this heavy metals and lead. So changing over to biblical economics is like having your blood cleaned. All right. So the down-pression story, I'm skipping to another. So you're flipping pyramids. Woo, woo, woo. There's a collective dragon ruling over us. Sadly, most deny their own dragon and our common dragon, which is the moneylenders. Before the Matrix movie was a Plato's allegory of the cave. And it just, all of these videos are sort of describing a synthetic reality which has been created, like the Matrix, Plato's allegory of the cave. And what Yah is calling us to do is, if you look on reality from a physical point of view, from a physical point of view, the adversary has all of the advantages. The adversary has all the guns. They've got all the gold and the silver and the Bitcoin. They've got all of the Federal Reserve notes. They've got all of the police and the military on their sides. They got all the military hardware. They've got the big, powerful guns. They've got the direct energy weapons. They've got the nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare weapons. They have control of all of the media. I'm building up Goliath here. I'm creating a giant in the land. I'm building it all up, right? Well, Yah looks down on all this, and we look at it like, man, these guys are giants. Surely there's no way that we can take these guys. And Yah's going, man, you don't get it. How the pen, the word of Yah, the pen, ideas, the pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is, meaning the spiritual, the realm of ideas, the realm of spirituality. It's within this realm, the realm of spirituality, the realm of the mystical, the realm of the Ruach, the set apart spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. Within that realm, those who have the whole, they look at it and go, if you just surrender, bride, Yah will strengthen you and weaken your enemies. Right now, so if you describe it, it's like, this is, you've got Goliath up here and David way down here, way down low. Goliath's got everything. But in the spiritual realm, it's like that. It's the total opposite. In the spiritual realm, we're obedient and they're in rebellion. In the spiritual realm, we hate injustice. They love injustice. We hate usury and perpetual debt. They love usury and perpetual debt. In their realm, man makes laws. In our realm, Yah makes laws. And miracles are possible. The spiritual realm. So the role of the prophets is to transcend and act as shamans, so to speak, to bring, repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near, meaning to transcend the natural world. Like if you're out in nature, you're away from all of the command and control systems of Babylon. You're in the natural world where all of the animals are running around free. They're not paying to live. right? So from that perspective, looking outside of the cave, you see a different world of possibility. And all we have to do is walk into it. So, all right, so part of that synthetic reality is, there's a video called Sinclair Media, Soldiers in Trump's War on Media. It says, our corporate media is banker scripted and financed false reality. Watch how corporate media warns about fake news. Meanwhile, they all read from the same sanitized script. Operation Mockingbird is a government CIA program to social engineer and dumb down the population. This is a video. I highly recommend this. If you would please, I'll play it in the background. Let me get where you can see it. It starts up, by the rivers of Babylon, lenders. Here, let me just read the beginning. I want you to watch this movie. It's very important because it shows our present reality. Okay. I got to make it bigger. I can't read it here. For the past 2,500 years, moneylenders have enslaved humanity. Moneylenders have disguised themselves as capitalists, communists, fascists, and even constitutional Republicans. Moneylenders have unlimited funds to corrupt Jews, Christians, Muslims, and even atheists. They engineer wars and simultaneously finance both sides. Jesus understood that the moneylenders were the root of earth's evil. Our king whipped the den of thieves in his only act of violence. Money masters own our schools, universities, media, Hollywood. They have full spectrum dominance to rewrite history, to dumb down the population, to hide their genocidal murder and land theft. The following video is a brief expose of their criminality. Here, we document the root cause of evil, which afflicts all humanity. We demonstrate the problem, then show the biblical solution. Right? So that's pretty good. There's what I'm trying to show is the Bible is an owner's manual. If you open your owner's manual, and like, for instance, my car won't start and it clicks, right? If it clicks, that means like, if it's click, 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 that means the battery's dying. If it doesn't click at all, that means likely your battery's entirely dead. So you learn this stuff. You can read the owner's manual and it'll troubleshoot, right? The Bible does the same thing. It says, hey, do you have these symptoms? Right? The video starts off the river, from the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down and where we wept when we remembered Zion. Oh, for the wicked carried us away, captivity required from us a song. But how can we be thinking of a song in this strange land? Right? We're in this strange land. We're in captivity. So if all of you realize that you've been disconnected from your tribe, that you're suicidal because you have so little connection to your family, or if you're awake because you're awake and your family disowns you because their mind is completely controlled by Babylon. Because they've adopted all of the morality of Babylon. Namely, within Babylon, who creates the law? Man creates the law. Who chooses the leaders? Oh, man chooses the leaders. Meaning the men, the tyrants themselves, the moneylenders, or they give you a false vote solution. So this video, what's unique about this documentary is I use various verses of scripture to support the existing reality, to know who you are, where we are within the timeline of the Bible, within this storyline. If you understand the storyline, the history is prophecy, what do we do next? How do we win? Nehemiah 5, debtors revolt. That's what you do. Nehemiah 5, debtors revolt, which is effectively an Exodus. We should be preparing for Passover, because what happens at Passover? Exodus. Exodus takes us from being Roman monotheists to being Roman polytheists to being monotheists. We transfer, we move on. All right, so what I'm trying to do is create a new story, a story of redemption, a story of where Babylon says to us that, you know, the Earth is billions and billions of years ago, and the evolution took us millions and millions of years. We're just like this accidental accident which has no real meaning or purpose. Whereas Yah says, oh, you have a very, very, very important purpose. You in your Andy Chalkley, thank you for the comments. Andy Chalkley says, here, I'm going to post it. Andy Chalkley says, the problem is that in canceling the debt, the money supply disappears. Since William of Orange signed on the dotted line, our money supply relies on ever-increasing amounts of debt. In the UK, for example, only 3% of the money supply is created by the Bank of England as cash currency. Folding notes, I agree, or digital. The coins in the US, it's created by the government in the US, so it's similar in the US. The rest is created by double entry bookkeeping, accounting, when loans are granted, meaning new money is created when a human being, a flesh and blood human being, signs a promissory note. And the reason why I'm saying that as a response to Andy Chalkley is that watch the video, we just passed it on this website at the bottom under About. It's video that I created myself, that the artwork was done. The link, I want to give credit because I didn't do the artwork at all. Like I don't even have any clue about how doing that. But the video is really good. It's called The Chicken Note. It says how money was invented and then hijacked by the bankers. So any currency that exists at all, gold, silver, poo, they used to use cow patties for fuel. So it was a commodity-based currency. So the point is, what we're saying is that Yah says that you can pay your tax with labor, flocks and herds and oil and produce. So if everybody issues currency in the same way that anybody who qualifies can issue a promissory note in order to create new money with the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve System or the Bank of England, whatever, they're monetizing our signature. We need to monetize our own signature. We need to monetize our own signature. I'm not sure if there's a way for me to type that in. It needs to be in big letters. We need to monetize, and this is how we are important, right? Because the Babylon wants to make us insignificant. This is how important you are. You have every bit. Yea, you have every bit as much of a responsibility to issue money. Issue money, you, all of it, Andy, Chalkley, Daniel, Wetson. Ours is not to just keep complaining about the Babylonian system. Ours is to implement the benevolent alternative system and take responsibility to create products and services which need to be made in our communities. Meaning all of the stuff that we need, not the junk, the stuff that we need needs to be made in our communities. So think of the necessities of life for construction, food, water, shelter, transportation, communications, internet, gasoline, heating oil. So we took the responsibility to sign up a business in Mountain Hours called Summit Grease Recycling. And they recycled grease and they turned it into biodiesel. And we made a video about how you can use locally created Mountain Hours to pay for locally created vehicle oil. They drove, the video that we did was with a Volkswagen Golf diesel. The dude lived in Omaha, Nebraska, as I remember. So he had a pretty long drive. We actually filled up an extra tank. And we did the transaction in the local currency. That should be, That means us, just some, I'm a pool builder, right? Just some regular guys. We beat, for that minute, in that place, in that time, we beat the international petrodollar because we created, in the Marine Corps, they call it improvise, adapt, and overcome. The Christians, you're commanded to overcome. These are just a bunch of problems that 100 years ago, a lot of these problems didn't exist. 100 years ago. So all we're doing is going back to some of the ways of our recent forefathers, eventually to the point where we become self-sufficient, all the way to the point where we reject the national currency and we just do local currencies, all with the intention of repatriating the land, canceling the debt, establishing tribal exodus, grassroots. That's how we do it. All right, I want to, Daniel made a comment here. Daniel Wetson says, would not teach as the sons of Elohim would end up preserving earth. Do you not, the have been developed today, descend from the fallen watchers knowing cosmos instead of the holy? Yeah, but I don't say every I don't believe that all technology is evil. I'm saying that like money, for instance, some people say that we should abandon money entirely, just as, or TV, right? Or video. Like in this instance, if for whoever's listening, this is a blessing that I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I'm talking to you wherever you guys live. That's a blessing. This is right now, like books, right? That's a technology. It's better than carrying tablets, right? Or papyrus or whatever, right? So not all technology, it's just that when it comes, like think of the Amish. The Amish adopted technology so long as they could control the technology and make it within their communities. But if the technology was something that was a convenience that would be used to make them dependent upon what they call the English, because they're German, they're Pennsylvania Dutch, Amish, they knew that this was a satanic empire system based on usury, and its goal was to continually offer convenience as a methodology to enslave. And the Amish didn't buy, like they knew what was up. All right, Daniel Wetson has another, I hope I pronounced that. If not, I apologize. You're not the one making the giants, you're the one exposing the giants. Thank you, I appreciate that. Shalom, brother, right? Let's beat these guys. Let's you know what, I hope that if anybody's still listening, that you guys can, I'm scrolling, there's a bunch of comments in here that I had missed. Man, I appreciate the comments. My videos just, I already go long because I just have a lot to go through. Okay. Daniel Wetson says, are not churches supposed to actually be the equivalent of the elders in the gate, wherein judgments are passed upon offenders and disputes are settled among brethren, as well as teaching of the laws of the kingdom? Yeah, exactly. That's the responsibility that we have given up because we've been domesticated. We you know, when we're young, we watched all these shows that teaches, oh, this is how a law is made, right? Jailhouse Rock or whatever that was called, jail. You know, the Saturday morning shows. So we were watching all these cartoons and we thought it was just entertainment, but what they were really doing was propagandizing the youth, and separating us from Yah, turning us into polytheists that would vote and render to Caesar. And what we should have been doing all along, and what I will be teaching my children in this very facility, this building, the School of the Prophets, is the same thing that I want to teach, and I'm teaching right now, is Yah is the only lawgiver. Period. End of story. Yah is the only lawgiver. Period. End of story. Daniel Duke says, thanks for everything you do, Wayne. Thank you for the encouragement, Daniel. That's super kind, because I'm you know, when you look around the fierce physical world, you just think everybody's so focused on their daily activities and materialism, and it's just you feel like we can't win. You lose hope. You lose heart. And Yah comes along, and I can't express enough how much the cannabis of Exodus helps me. The cannabis of Exodus 30. The Spirit of Yah falls upon me. He says, of course you can do it, Wayne. Of course, receive your anointed eyes. See the world as I see it, that it's a software problem. The hardware is just fine. The material world is fine. It's the software, the programming that the people are obeying. Chosen tosses the mark of the beast is the legal ID identity. I disagree because it deals with buying and selling. Like it's not something new. It's not like the ID thing is only, it's the ability to cut off. I think it's part of that. That's definitely part of it, but it's like layer upon layer. It's like some people thought it was the barcode, and some people think you need to have, the physical. It's got to be on you physically. What it really is, the mark of the beast, which has been around for thousands of years, it's the money lender's ability to control the market and to cut off dissenters. It's thousands of years old, and that's why during Elijah's time, when Jezebel and Ahab had cut off 100 prophets of Baal, that they had to go live in caves, and I forget the guy's name, but someone that was helping them, that was obedient, but that was in Ahab's house, he was bringing bread to them, right? No sound in the videos, thank you. Okay, Daniel Wetson said should we not be careful as to not fall for the Masonic solution? Walt Disney was a 33-degree Mason, and between 75 and 90% of those who make it big in Hollywood entertain have sold their soul to Hasatan. Unfortunately, these people are subliminally slipping false messages even when they speak the truth in many ways. The Matrix does not get up anywhere close to the third heaven. They are stuck in second heaven realities. Even Walt Disney's movies never get above the second heaven reality, which is, of course, now why they are overtly preaching satanic agenda. No, I can't wait to hear the music ever. None can't create the laws. Okay, so I want to go through the websites because my prime message is a duty to the yellow vest movement to give them solutions. All right. So there's a outstanding, while on the rivers of Babylon, it's showing the historic precedent for the condition that we live in today. So that's the purpose of that. Okay, I need to get rid of that. Okay, back on screen sharing. I need to find the right. Okay, share the screen. Again, I apologize, I don't have a producer. Okay, so we're looking at the website called JewDebtRevolt.com. And I'm gonna add that to the stream. So my documentary called The Rivers of Babylon, 2,000 Years of War on Yah's Kingdom. Please check that out because it describes the reality from a biblical standpoint. That basically what happened is the Jews got conquered first, and then the Jews exported that to the Christians, and then the Christians got conquered through usury next. Then the Jews and the Christians conquered the New World, North and South America, and turned those into debt slaves. And they've been exporting it through then to the Far East with communism, and we keep getting corrupted. So the point is that we want to show that I don't want white people did great evil to the brown races of the world because of brown, yellow, whatever colors, because not by virtue of their race, but rather by virtue that they had been conquered themselves. And then just like think of the Navajo Indian wind talkers, where they went to fight on behalf of the U.S. government during World War II. They're basically collaborated. They were conquered. Like in their tribal communities, they would be regarded as traitors. Well, that's what white guys, Europeans, have been doing, is we've been collaborating with England and being used as a tool to, conquer the earth. And that's what all of us have been deceived into doing. We're part of the stormtrooper, the Darth Vader guys, by rendering and supporting this economic system. So we have to repent from that. And okay, let me see. Okay, that looks better that way. So another teaching here, which is an outstanding resource, which is called How to Read the Bible. It's a story and a playlist. It's put out by the Bible Project, and it talks about the stories and the parables and the hero's journey, which occurs in various biblical narratives. And it talks about prophets who are fighting the moneylenders and usury and jingoism and the military. Worship of the military is a very old thing. Worship of the military, which is the worship of Pharaoh's armies, that nothing could beat Pharaoh's armies, you know? So, okay, so that was the down Prussian story. We're moving over now to the sword. All right, so here, there's a menorah, there's a cannabis leaf. He's slaying the dragon of usury, right? He's going through his transformation. He's like Moses, who used to work for Pharaoh. He rediscovers his Israelite identity. His identity now is he rejects his Egyptian identity in the house of Pharaoh, and he actually kills a cop. He takes on the identity of an Israelite, but now, because he has the burning bush, Israelites are afraid because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be judged. So he leaves because he's afraid that the Israelites themselves are going to turn him over to Pharaoh, because they would sooner have Moses arrested than have Moses judge them. Just like Jesus, just like Apostle Stephen, just like all the apostles, right? This history repeats over and over, right? King David, because Saul didn't want to repent. This is a repeated civil war. The Holy Spirit was with David. Yah protected David when he is completely surrounded. And when you have the Spirit of Yah, you have the courage, because you have the Ruach HaKodesh, so that you're not afraid to walk into Pharaoh's house like Moses and say, let my people go so that they may serve me. And that's how you slay the dragon. That's how your staff becomes a serpent and swallows the magician's serpents, because you become the sovereign. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Yah becomes the sovereign, and you're just a tool for that to occur. We become a nation of priests and holy nation, noble, righteous, obedient, monotheistic. Oh, man. I needed a drink there. I appreciate your patience. Okay, this is an identity. This is the time. Cannabis of Exodus is used as a tool for Bob Marley. Come, we go chant down Babylon one more time. Chant it down one more time. What do you mean by chanting it down and one more time? Well, one more time means history. We did it in the past. Our ancient ancestors did it in Exodus. They did it in Nehemiah. They did it at the time of Jesus when the Ruach HaKodesh was delivered to the apostles at the hour of incense, 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. In book Acts 2 and 3, as it's witnessed. You ever hear, there's a Disney movie called The Sword and the Stone, and it says, whosoever shall remove this sword from this stone shall be proclaimed rightful king of England. That sword is the word of Yah. And those who are able to pull it from the stone where it's hibernating, where it's on lockdown, where it's not being, where Yah's word is being used in vain. Because today we're using Yah's word in vain, meaning to none effect, meaning evil is running rampant because we're so idolatrous, we're actually helping evil. So the sword is a spiritual sword, the word of Yah. It's the flaming sword. It's the methodology where the two witnesses are able to, fire comes out their mouth, because what I'm describing right now is fire to the Talmudists. It's fire to the scribes and the Pharisees. So much so that they use the mark of the beast, control over the Overton window, to sanitize usury from the churches. The topic of usury is never discussed in the churches. The topic of usury is never discussed in universities. Yah's prohibition of usury is not discussed you can't get a degree in biblical economics. Why is that? Because of the mark of the beast. Because they have full spectrum dominance ability to control the Overton window. They control the market. Okay, the sword and the stone, King Arthur, right? So what Yah's calling us to do is in our community is draw this sword, the word of God, and transform it in the same way that individually you can do this with your temple, where you take responsibility to stop hating, to stop being so fearful, to fear Yah, to fear only Yah. Because who we fear is who we will obey, and who we obey becomes our God. Okay, so the Bible and the sword. The Bible is the sword, is Yah's word or Yah's law, the New Testament. Ephesians 6:17, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Hebrews 4:12, for the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the diverting asunder of the soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow. And it is a discerner, this is a very important, and it is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. That means obedience to Yah as the bride that wants to marry Yah. It distinguishes those who are preaching the good news of Jubilee when Yah knows, because you're proclaiming his kingdom of debt forgiveness and land restitution. He knows that you want to obey. He knows that you're part of a bride and your family is part of a bride if they're doing the same thing. He knows your heart. He wants to give you a heart of wisdom so that you're not deceived to march with people who are marching to their own destruction because they're part of a color revolution, the yellow vest movement. Possibly, but if the yellow vest movement takes up the call and puts menorahs on and writes, cancel the debt, right? Need to get some Sharpies, cancel the debt. I want to put that on here somewhere so people can see it. Cancel the debt and say, no, we've done it all wrong. We need to reject humanism and obey Yah's commands. All right, some more support for that. The sword is verbal. Revelation 1:16, out of his mouth came a sharp, two-edged sword. The Old Testament, so that was just from the New Testament. The Old Testament, Isaiah 49:2, he has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he has concealed me, and he has also made me a select arrow. He has hidden me in his quiver. Psalm 149:6. Let the high praises of God be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand. Yah's commanding us to use. The reason why I'm trying to emphasize this is the word of God is our only offensive weapon. And it's true. Think of Star Wars with a lightsaber. Just like how Luke Skywalker had to learn to use a lightsaber. All of these are allegories that the devil has been mocking us with, because they're all counterfeits from what we're supposed to do. And that in the same way that Jesus, Messiah, when he was age 12, he went into the temple and he was debating and challenging the experts there. And they were amazed at his answers. Well, I wonder why. So because he was beyond wise. He knew their condition. He knew why the Romans had taken them captive. Why? Because Yah proclaimed it. You're in captivity because you don't obey. And if you do anything, right? If the Jews at the time of Jesus did anything, if they had a violent protest, it's not going to help them. If they had a constitution was the solution, any solution other than obeying Yah's word was doomed, because the Spirit of Yah was poured out only on those who obeyed. And the apostles obeyed. They went to the temple. They went and observed Passover. They obeyed the biblical feasts. So this is the reason why we shouldn't observe Christmas and Easter and birthdays and New Year's Day and Super Bowl Sunday. And it's because all of those were created as counterfeits for us to put our energy into those dead idols in the same way we put our energy into this dead idol. The mark of the beast control scheme, right? So we're deceived. Okay, so some more examples why this offensive weapon is so important to Yah. Psalm 149:6. Let the high praises of Yah be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand. Zechariah 4:6. Then he said to me, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, saying, not by might or by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts. So Yah saying this is a spiritual thing. It's a blood transfusion, but spiritually, it's a spiritual transfusion. It's Yah's going to use with the cannabis of Exodus to take our hearts of stone and turn them into hearts of flesh. That's why they made cannabis illegal. Judges 7:20. When the three companies blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers, they held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands, and blowing and cried, the sword of the Lord for Gideon. The sword for the Lord and for Gideon. Okay, the Bible Project, the law, it's a great video. They make videos that are kind of like comic book style, and they're great because they teach kids to be their own superhero. They teach adults to be superheroes and make this fun. This is a blessing. Yah's going to give us the blessing of grace to accomplish great, amazing, and marvelous things, to fill our people with hope when they think all is lost. They think there's nothing that can fix it. And Yah comes along and defeats Goliath. Okay, the Star Trek Day of the Dove episode, which we spoke about earlier, it shows how there's a third-party usurper who's engineering conflict because he's harnessing negative energy and getting the Klingons and the humans to fight each other. Okay, all right, music school. We're getting close to done. Champ Down Babylon Kids Music Playlist. This is a playlist of songs where I put the lyrics in, and it explains how reggae music uniquely despises Babylon. Reggae music uniquely, you won't find a genre of music which is more, one, hostile to Babylon, and two, to varying degrees. It's not perfect, but loves Yah and creates music about obeying Yah's culture, Yah's morality. In fact, that's why a lot of reggae artists aren't invited to hippie festivals, is because they're against what they call the Bati boy system, which is the sodomite agenda, the gender dysphoria movement. They're against it because they obey Yah, or we're all idolatrous to varying degrees. Anyway, this music shows that Bob Marley and others are creating simple children's music. And We're creating a movie. We're creating a script. Imagine if this movie existed right now, that we could go to the theaters and watch a movie about a Nehemiah 5 debtors revolt, where people said, you know what, only Yah can create law. We're going to issue our own money. We're going to pay our taxes with labor. We can get by without money at all even. Let's try that. That we're going to obey the Sabbaths. We're going to have sabbaticals where the land is rested. We're going to have Sabbaths and feasts where you take off a whole week, where you focus on Exodus and removing our consent. We're going to remove our consent from Pharaoh and Babylon and Esau and Uncle Sam and Caesar, where we completely divorce Uncle Sam, completely divorce Rothschild, completely divorce Esau, completely divorce the NFL and pornography and every form of addiction. And rather, we embrace Yah's word and we become monotheists. So the first video that's showing there is, Robin and I actually just went to see them, a band called The Movement. And the song was a cover of Bob Marley's Small Axe. And it goes, if you are a big, big tree, we are the small axe. This is scriptural, by the way. This is all in the small axe cuts the root, because we're supposed to cut down the groves, the idols, the Ashtaroth, all of the idolatry, the constitutions and the statutes, all of these trees, all of these orchards which are not producing fruit. And simultaneously, by us singing, by us proclaiming and teaching and canceling debt, teaching, proclaiming, and healing with cannabis of Exodus, healing minds, bodies, and souls, healing, pouring, dumping out all of ourselves, our carnality, and then filling back up. Yah will weaponize us so that we can defeat evil. And that's how we become the small axe. If you are a big, big tree, we are the small axe, sharpened to cut you down, sharpened to cut you down. These are the words of my master. No weak heart shall prosper, and whosoever diggeth a pit, they'll fall in it, they'll fall in it. And whosoever diggeth a pit, they'll fall in it. So some of the songs in there, I want to, let's go there, because I want you to see some of the songs. This is a playlist. It's free. So the playlist, you can type it in. It's Chant Down Babylon Kids Music. Teach your children. Like, so for the various feasts of the Lord. I got to pass this real quick. So I'm just going to read some of the titles real quick. So Max Romeo, Chase the Devil. Bob Marley, Chant Down Babylon. Desmond Decker and the Aces, the Israelites. Where are the Israelites? You got to know your identity, all of us. So the Israelites will return to the promised land of Hawaii, and their race will be Hawaiians. And Africans will return to their promised land, which is Africa. Okay, next song, Bob Marley, Forever Loving Yah. Becca Shea, Heartbeat. Clinton Fearon, Chatty Chatty Mouth. Bob Marley and the Wailers, Coming In From the Cold. Go Tell It to the Mountains by Bob Marley and the Wailers. It's Peter Tosh. Moses goes down to Egypt. Goes Moses, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Pharaoh, Pharaoh, let my people go. Bob Marley and the Wailers, Fire, right? They're on fire and they got no water. Campfire Anthems, Money. Your money ain't gonna be worth nothing no more. No, no, your money ain't gonna be worth nothing no more. Campfire anthems. These are songs to sing for the tabernacle, the Feast of Tabernacle, and get fired up to return swagger, to have the swagger of David facing off with Goliath. Yah wants that, because if you're filled with the Holy Spirit, why would you be afraid of Goliath? Campfire anthems, open up your heart. This is all Tubby Love. There's a Back to the Roots by Paul Isaac with Tubby Love. Joseph and Cheryl Appegarth, a great song called Walls of Babylon. It says, it's great because it talks about the walls falling down. We think these problems are really big, that there's no way you can beat Jericho. But when you sound the trumpets, it's a musical thing. Bob Marley singing Cornerstone and witnessing that he's a Christian. Tribal Seeds, Run the Show. The Tribal Seeds have this song. Run the Show goes, white-collar devils run the show, and the slaves don't know. Fighting against the young and old. White-collar devils run the show, and the slaves don't know, right? So Yah has sent these prophets, but we've been looking in the wrong places for the wrong thing. The prophets come to speak that this is a slave system, number one, and the only way you get out is through Exodus. Culture, there's a song called Love Shine Bright, Kumbaya, and I think that's it for that playlist. So they're children's songs, generally simple, repeatable, easy to memorize, and please make a playlist of that. Make your own playlist. Make a CD and then hand those CDs out to other parents and get all of the kids singing that. Because imagine a whole generation of children who sing, "Come, we go chant down Babylon one more time," right? They're chanting the song of Moses and the song of the Lamb, because Jesus was preaching the same debt cancellation jubilee, good news, in Luke 4:18 and 19. Okay, so that covers that. Okay, that website, contact, open up the chains. Okay, so that's that website. And I'm just going to read you the title of some of my other websites. I'm going to close out of that. And any comments on here? This is why Yeshua always rebuked the Pharisees, because of the reproofs. So he's condemning, it's basically Yah saying how they were creating traditions of man to replace the word of Yah. That's what man always does. That's what Adam and Eve were doing. It's the same thing over and over. Rebellion is captivity, obedience is release. And we want release. That's the whole mission of the Yellow Vest movement, right? Isn't that the goal? Okay, so I want to give some of my own credentials as to why the Yellow Vest movement people should listen to me, if you haven't found a few already. But I've been working on this for 10 years, and it's been the only thing that I can think about. It's very difficult to build pools, and we've done video streams with other guys I build pools with, namely Jim Callahan and Richard Davis. You can find them both on Facebook. Like we build, like we're working, but in the meantime, while we're working, we're talking about how Yah's blessing has healed us individually, and how Yah's economic and judicial system, his government, judges, tribal Exodus government, will cure globalism. Tribalism is the opposite of globalism. Obviously, we're suffering from globalism today. Okay, so for a tribal economic and government system, you need a tribal money system. So these are some of my websites. Jesus Hates Usury. It's basically a website which I've got a lot of my books are on there for free. I've written several books about the cannabis of Exodus. One's called, 7 Reasons Why Christians Should Try Cannabis. Another book is called The Cannabis of Exodus. Another is Your Hero's Journey. These are free books that you can get off the website. Another book, PDF, is called, The Lost Tradition of Biblical Debt Cancellation. There's another book by Sheldon Emery. This is a very important topic. I'm sorry, this is carbonated and it's making me burp now. Very important teaching by Pastor Sheldon Emery that died, probably 20 years ago now. He taught about how quickly and rapidly is called, oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the book, but anyway, it's on there. It's basically it goes like, imagine, right? This is a mustard seed. Imagine the end of debt, poverty, and war, right? Imagine it. Like we can't even imagine that, and he had described how that is accomplished through biblical economics. So what I'm trying to say, this isn't just my idea. I'm standing on shoulders teaching the same stuff that these guys were teaching. In fact, it was from Sheldon Emery that I learned about Deuteronomy 14:23 through 25. It's an expression of monetary issuance where you bind it in your hand. You make a bond, meaning an IOU. Okay, so websites, there's lots of free resources there. If you're interested specifically in the money system and the Jubilee part, it's ourmoneyjubilee.com. I have another website called ourmoney.net, which is more secular. It's just teaching monetary reform in a very secular way, meaning it's energy and whoever controls the energy system. Like it's an architecture, right? A money system is an architecture. And whoever has the ability to issue that, control it, monopolize it, they're going to run that system. And ourmoney.net is based upon common people issuing money. I build pools. My website's tampapoolinstallation.com. And so I explained some of the other things. I'm just kind of reading my show notes here. I showed you a video vision of Officer of Peace. We made the video ourselves. I'm a pool guy. I'm a former Marine for a very tiny period of time 1985, 86, and went to officer training school, officer candidate school in Quantico, Virginia, because I grew up wanting to be a Marine. So I studied war and tactics and military history and leadership. And so I graduated from that. And then my Navy veteran mom and dad, my dad particularly, told me how World War II was engineered and started in America anyway, when FDR through an act of war, put an embargo on Japan. And that completely made me so angry. I just got out of boot camp and he told me that, and it made me so angry. I didn't talk to him for a while because he completely destroyed the idolatry which I had surrounding war. Trying to organize. I don't want to have distractions in the background. I guess I've gotten along with it so far. I don't know why it's a problem now. In any case, he completely destroyed that, and he wrote me a poem called "What Will You Do, My Son? Will you be?" All of a sudden, he became like a peace activist. Growing up, all we did was watch war movies nonstop and the World at War series. So that's my background, and I became a Ronald Reagan Republican, and in college we were very conservative, sports and Animal House, that style. So that's background. In addition, this is very important. I will make public all of my income records. Where this is very important. That any leader that the Yellow Vest movement puts their support behind. Number one, make sure you're obeying the word of Yah. that it's a plan for debt cancellation and land repatriation, that you're doing a Nehemiah 5. Then whoever the leaders are, because we're so disjoint and we don't really know each other, number one, it needs to be local. Number two, find out those leaders, and they should willingly offer up how they make their income, because the adversary has unlimited funds to hire Judas goats, that are willing to sell for 30 pieces of silver, and then take the people into non-solutions, solutions which won't create the intended outcome. That is that our children are released from captivity. Very, very important that all leaders show, right? So the biblical scripture is that the leaders are, provide out of the tribal Exodus government, that the Israelites themselves are to provide out of themselves, like a militia, so to speak. Known men of Israel, men within your tribe that you know. Okay, we talked about music and prophecy. The cannabis of Exodus and its relationship to David was that David was anointed by Samuel immediately before, number one, he received the Ruach HaKodesh, and number two, he defeated Goliath. So our challenge is to defeat Goliath. Otherwise, it's pointless to march. Like, you're not going to reform it. We need to completely cleanse the temple, and all the earth is Yah's temple. So this is the solution. So I presented this. I'm going to tie this up here shortly. Gone very long. The yellow vest qualifications for leadership are biblical qualifications. That's very important. The qualifications, if you're looking for leaders within the yellow vest movement, if I find that the leader is not willing to surrender and completely repent from man's law, I'm not going to go along with it. In fact, just by me wearing this, if they commit acts of violence, then all of a sudden I get affiliated with it. That's why it's very important that we watch what we do. There's all of this identity theft and false flags and agent provocateurs that are deliberately financed in order to make all of these marches appear violent, which they are violent. There's all this violence going on. And there's a part of us that when that is released, people want to see that the police are getting beat. And there's another part that wants law and order, and they want to see the police beating down the protesters. And then there's other people who've been victimized by the police, which is all of us in this system. And because it's the police that are the police in the military, which are the mercenaries for Pharaoh. The reason why Pharaoh can rule is because Pharaoh controls the money, turns everybody into bond slaves, and they don't have enough money. They can't get a job, so they get hired for the military or the police. Or because, I didn't join for money in the Marines. I joined for the glory and the idolatry and the legend, all of the programming. So we have to change in the image of our children. This is the big lesson. Think of who our children perceive as being heroes, like Superman or Spider-Man or The Incredibles or The Lion King or Moana or SEAL Team 6 or the Marines or Roger Staubach, whoever our boys, our children, are particularly our boys, who they idolize is who they will model. Because it's those men who are acting as the role models, whether they're willing or deliberate, or like the various satanic musicians, the satanic whores of Babylon, like Katy Perry and, Madonna and all that. If the girls idolize that and materialism, they are going to be turned into whores. The men will be castrated, and they'll be diverted into giving basically we're passing them through the fire of Moloch so that they serve the Pentagon and the synagogue of Satan through money, through war, through enforcing man's law or whatever, right? So what we are required to, it's a commandment, it's actually Deuteronomy 4, I believe it is. We are to teach the law within the gates so that within the gates it's protected, so that we can walk around and know that our children aren't being taught materialism, transgenderism, we the peopleism, humanism, that our children are not being taught to hate and believe that man creates law, all with the intention so that we return to a self-sufficient tribal where our extended family lives in the same area. So our children grow up knowing who they are, knowing who real heroes are, knowing their culture and their language, and their being proud of themselves, being proud of their families, being proud of their identity, not to the extent where they believe they're greater than other tribes. Rather, they can watch TV and they see the reflection of their own society, not being guilted out or being held down for lack of vision, that they're not capable of, creating. Every tribe and tongue can create heavy industry, cars and technology. Every tribe and tongue can create music and dancing, right? There's some that might be better. Whatever that is, wherever that works out, ultimately Yah created all of his creation in order to express various parts of his wonder and blessings, and like various flowers. Some are more fragrant, more detailed, but they're different, just like animals, just like nature. Real diversity, true diversity. So that's the vision. Yah's got a very, very big vision, and he wants to share it with all humanity so that we're no longer kept as mental captives. It's the mental slavery which is our greatest obstacle. The mental slavery which gives us low expectations and self-limitation and arrested development, and this nonstop conflict, this nonstop suicidal tendencies, this inability to even have the most minor ability to have the instinct of self-preservation. Like I always say, that humans are the only species, one, that number one, pays to live on the earth, and number two, we're the only species which worships our parasites. We literally worship our parasites. So that's it for now, and I'm going to end this broadcast. I hope it recorded. Where do I live in Tampa, Florida, and I'm going to wind it up. I'm kind of beat. But thanks for tuning in and listening. Daniel Wetson in the comments, Andy Chalkley, Daniel Duke, Chosen Taw. That's it for now.
Let my people go.
3,500 years ago, our ancient ancestors in Egypt participated in a real-life miracle. For hundreds of years, our Israelite fathers suffered as debt slaves to earthly gods, as we do today. Pharaoh used beatings, murder, and even infanticide for population control. Then God redeemed Jacob. Israel achieved Exodus independence, but only after they put their faith in our Creator instead of man. The tribes of Israel did the impossible against the most powerful empire on earth. They beat the banksters of their time. History is prophecy, and Revelation is a repeat of Exodus.
Come out of her, my people, so you do not participate in her sins or receive her plagues.
Today, our scattered and now regathering tribes are preparing to do it again. The house of Judah and Israel are uniting in obedience in our Father's law.
The church is Israel. Well, who are these people? They're Israel. Israel. Because Paul said we're grafted in. So we're the new Israel. Yes.
Rather than continuing to serve the Babylonian beast system, 144,000 souls are being sealed under the protection of the Passover lamb. Remember, we are the hands and feet of Jah. Purify your souls. Prepare for the return of the champion. Now, we are finding the courage to walk in Jesus' footsteps. We are seeing the wisdom of his debt forgiveness Sabbaths, Jubilee release, and land reform. We are understanding how usury creates perpetual debt bondage. We are creating usury-free money systems.
Arise, usury abolitionists.
To protect our tribes from monetary collapse and usurpation. We are reconnecting to the land, sowing and reaping with the appointed times and feasts. Whether you are an Israelite or part of the mixed multitudes, believer or non-believer, you are welcome to join the 144,000 Exodus Jubilee. We're here in common cause for relief from captivity in Mystery Babylon. It's time to flip pyramids. Now, when most believe we have no hope, we are going to flip the moneylenders' tables. Join us now, together as one. One love, one heart, one destiny. This is Jubilee TV.
The first wedding, Mount Sinai. The second wedding, Mount Zion.
Welcome to the usury-free Jubilee. Ja!
Calling out to all area crew, we gon' make it happen right here, right now. Calling out to all area crew, we